Students who are actively engaged simply learn more. It's true. Because active education captures a child's imagination and keeps them focused and attentive long enough to facilitate deep and meaningful learning. Active education is, well, active. It can make a student love what they are learning and dive in deeper and deeper, hungry to learn more. Better yet, once a child's imagination is activated through active education, there really is no limit to what they can learn, what they can discover, and what they can achieve. Passive education, on the other hand, doesn't engage a student's imagination. It doesn't hold their attention, and it doesn't help a student learn a subject deeply enough to impart any meaningful understanding. Unfortunately, most of what kids do to learn something, especially in today's modern technological age, is passive education. Lectures, whether in person or via Zoom, are passive. Science demonstrations, whether performed on a YouTube video, or in person with a teacher, or in a science magic show, are all still passive. Worksheets, fill-in-the-blank activity books, and even most science kits are all passive. Even reading a book is passive because the student is not creating their own story, but reading the thoughts, ideas, and imagination of the author. All of these activities are passive because information is simply being presented to the student. And maybe the student is required to memorize that information, but rarely is the student actively engaged in testing, exploring, and challenging that information. And yet all of these activities are considered educational. And because of this, students sit bored in classrooms and in front of computer screens. Maybe they pick up a few tidbits of information here and there, but they're mostly unable to learn or retain very much information once the class is over. Let's be honest. How much do you remember from high school, or college, or even the last week's 3-day Zoom conference? Okay, so what does active education look like? And how can we make it more available to all students? Well, active education is actually quite simple, but because we don't do it very often, it can seem hard or intimidating at first. The lectures, science demonstrations, worksheets, books, they're all ways to pique a child's interest. But without some activity to explore, they don't actually learn anything. In other words, to engage the student actively, students need to be encouraged to challenge, question, and imagine their own ideas about the information they just heard. So for example, if a child sits through a lecture on atoms, they may know the word atom and they may remember a couple of facts. But if they are asked to write 5 of their own questions about atoms, or if they're asked to explore what atoms mean to them, or what they would like to learn about atoms, or if they're encouraged to create their own experiment about atoms, or write a play or do a video, now they become engaged in the learning process as they explore their own ideas. This can feel challenging at first because kids are not used to asking their own questions and exploring their own ideas. But once they get the hang of it, their whole world will open up. I believe that if you want your child to unlock their passion for learning, you need to introduce them to active education, and that's why I developed RATATAZ. In a step-by-step approach, the RATATAZ method will help your child feel comfortable being introduced to complex subjects. It will accelerate their understanding with self-initiated questions and reinforce what they're learning with real science experiments, and also help them learn how to communicate what they've learned with others. And of course, each step of the RATATAZ method is backed by science. Click now to learn more about our RATATAZ curriculum subscription kits today. Thank you for watching.